to move from where you are. If you're in a place where you're comfortable with the manufacturing process and the cost of goods, you're probably going to stay there, and you're just going to have to figure out how to absorb a little bit of this and pass a certain amount of it along.
Can Santa just handle the tariffs on his own?
Santa, unfortunately, there's not a pile of gold up in the North Pole.
Oh,
It's
okay.
still a lot of snowballs and ice cubes. So he's going to need a lot of help to handle the tariffs from everybody else.
Jay Foreman is the CEO of Basic Fun, a toy company that makes Tonka trucks, Light Bright, and other popular toys. Jay, thanks.
You're welcome.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm A. Martinez.
And I'm Michelle Martin.
Good morning. This is meteorologist Ross Murley with your WTJX local forecast. This is Wednesday, the 9th of July. It'll be a partly sunny sky with spotty showers, upper 80s to low 90s. Steady east winds at 10 to 20 and gusty today. A few spotty showers tonight, low 78 to 82. Sunshine, partly sunny at times tomorrow, highs near 90, still quite breezy, mostly clear. Lows near 80 tomorrow night, and partly sunny with isolated showers on Friday, upper 80s to lower 90s. Rip current risk will be elevated today, thanks to the strong trades. Follow a gang of armored dinosaurs as they battle to reach adulthood, pursued by ferocious raptors on Walking with Dinosaurs tonight at 8 p.m. on WTJX TV, Channel 12.
WTJX 93.1 Charlotte Amalia, your NPR station in the Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on Anlayze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And good Wednesday morning, and welcome to another edition, a hump day edition of Anlayze This here on your NPR station in the U.S. Virgin Islands, WTJX FM. We're yours truly, Neville James. Another beautiful day in paradise. I can see the Sahara dust starting to meander its way back into the mix, like we were told on Monday by David Sanchez down at the Weather Service in San Juan, but still lovely here nonetheless. Let's get right to it. Chief Executive of the Territory, Albert Bryan, Governor Albert Bryan, is here in the studio. Good morning, Gov. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Virgin Islands. Neville, a pleasant good morning to you.
Mm-hmm.
How come I full straight better jump right into? How come you don't let me come on with Rocky and that boy?
Yo.
Who else on the Ducks?
Ducks. If you want, I'm Dwayne Henry. They got Dwayne now.
Dwayne.
Yeah.
You know, they have, Rocky calls me on the side and we have our own little debates about things, you know.
Yeah.
He's like, lately he's been telling me, be the bigger person,
Because he's been calling me about you too, you know what I'm saying? we like to talk about person. That. Well, I don't know about the bigger person. I think you didn't play enough poker with that whole thing. We'll get to that. But the first thing I want to ask you, because I always do this, how you doing, man? How you feeling? Everything good?
I'm great. I thank God for life, like you just told me this morning, ex-pass away,
man. I want to dedicate the show today to Elston Brooks, ex-Brooks, man. But I called me yesterday to let me know that he had passed, and that's my boy, Yankees fan to the end, and that one was rough. Still
you
reading
for
that
the
one.
The Freako man.
The Freako man, yeah, man. Makibu is actually, remember when we were young, right? Ireland man, Tekan, Rastafari name, but his own is Makibu. He out of LBJ, the ranch.
You know what my Rasta name was?
What was?
Albert.
I like that one. Yeah. He was part of a group of basketball players. A good basketball player, no. But you gotta
he brought it too. I didn't play.
Yeah, Lil X, Warren. Lil X,
Warren.
yeah. So shout out to the whole family, condolences, and all the children them. And you know what he did? He was part of Ebonites.
Remember him from Ebonites.
And he was the one who made. He himself was the one who left Ebonites to start the Rising Stars, the first Rising Stars in the Virgin Islands at St. Dunstan's, at St. John's Episcopal Church.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how Rising Stars actually started on St. Croix.
Well, he's iconic in St. Croix for free.
Yeah, man. But he's a panis. He's a panis. He loves steel pan and all that
good
stuff.
guy.
Yeah, man. Loves sports. Yeah. He used to talk sports all the time. He's a die-hard New York Giants, Yankees, anything from New York.
Yeah.
You're just gonna say Knicks. Oh, guys, Knicks. You know what I mean? So, that one was rough. So I still reeling from that one. So we're gonna dedicate the show. The governor said, "Shout out X this morning. You know, blessings and all that stuff." And
I mean, we got people in St. Croix. You know, it's a small place.
Mm-hmm.
In the Virgin Islands, we lose people along the way.
Yeah.
You know, so many people losing their parents, their friends, loved ones. You know,
And he's a St. Croix ex because they had an ex out at St. Thomas named Robert Gomes, arguably one of the greatest basketball players ever in the Caribbean. Seriously, Robert Gomes. So we got an ex over there and an ex there. So I want to make that clear, right? We're talking about
so
ex.
there's X man out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let me ask this question right off the bat. Governor, how was the carnival in St. John? I see Dwayne Henry take a picture with you Friday. I'll be over there hanging out.
Any carnival where no one dies is fantastic.
Incident free?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh man, our police officers were everywhere, you know, in the village, and they were everywhere. I thank them. You know, they had a little job action the other day. You know, I know they're getting their feelings because they feel unappreciated, and you know, rightfully so sometimes because we don't appreciate the hard work that they do enough. And every time I see an officer, I make it a habit of saying thank you for your service because, you know, most of the people they meet in their day in distress, and they work in 12-hour shifts, and then they carry that home to their families. It's a rough job, and you know, people talk about the overtime they make, but they don't talk about the hours they have to work. I mean, and even if you're sitting at a desk, you know, that's a lot of time away from your family, from your kids' birthdays, from functions happening, from enjoying yourself, money and everything. I mean, you get to a point where you're like, okay, and then it wears on your health. I mean, it's not easy on your body doing that either. But it was a beautiful thing. I was especially pleased with the ferry, you know, that big, beautiful ferry.
It's in effect?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's like, I think they moved like 6,500 people in a night.
Wow.
It was well attended. I think, you know, we overkill St. John. We have big entertainment over there, Sean Paul. We're gonna need a bigger village.
In St. John?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
It's wall to wall. You know, when I go to St. John, you know, I listen to all the music. We had a nice little reception at Government House. The parade was good. But you know, St. John got two sun, right? I mean, it's hot. It's
Yes,
hot.
yeah.
I got shout out to my girl over there in Cold Pot. She opened on the corner. He's like nothing like that. Nice oxtail over there. I had a good time.
But that's what makes it so beautiful in January.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get to St. John in January, December, January, and February, and that breeze over there, that'll be nice and cool. You know what I'm saying?
It does.
So, by the way, tell Debbie how I say heal up. She's a big shot now. You make her the
She's
police
a
chief.
crucial to me,
Yeah, and actually, she's told me on both sides of
Debbie
it.
Hodge.
But
Yes.
mommy moved to St. Croix, and
You know, a lot of people don't know that's Hugo's sister.
that's Hugo's sister,
Yeah.
right? And the father side, you know what I mean? So, and her mother, Miss Gabrielle from over there. You know what I'm saying? But she lived a lot of her years here and been here in St. Croix.
So yeah, the village was good. You know, I always have my complaints with. I was thinking about this being controversial, and you know, instead of having a festival person in charge of each island, I think we should change it to have a festival person that's in charge of like the village and entertainment, one that's in charge of cultural stuff, and one that's in charge of just marketing for all the three events. Because
what is Ian Turnbull?
Ian Turnbull in charge of everything overall, but then you have Halva, St. Thomas, Leona, St. John, and now we haven't appointed one for St. Croix because Shamari got promoted, so he's kind of like still doing it.
What's he now? Assistant commissioner?
He's a deputy commissioner.
Okay.
And we need like I get on them, you know, I get on them every year, and you know, I give them a hard time because everybody with Antigua Music Festival, you know, it's like I'm Virgin Islands all the way. Nobody better than us, right? And St. Lucia Music Festival, the Virgin Islands
that was born here.
The Virgin Islands got 3 music festivals every year for free. Nobody in the Caribbean could say that, right? St. Thomas and it's a week-long performances for free. St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. And we'd have just marketed it as festival or carnival. But the music live lineup and the village itself is an event onto itself. And I keep saying, right now, we should have everybody that's going to perform in December, so people can make travel arrangements. We shouldn't have a room free, because if we have Marshall for free, we got Patrice for free, we got Wycliffe for free, like, we shouldn't have a room open, a rent-a-car to spend. I mean, we don't, but I'm just saying. We kind of take a parochial approach to it and say, oh, it's just Christian Christmas Festival, but it's the village music, St. Croix Music Festival in the Christian Christmas Festival.
Yeah, I never look at it as free concerts within the within the carnival, but technically that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a free music festival.
Yeah.
3 of them.
Yeah. I never looked at it like that. You know, in that context, I raised up with celebration in St. John.
Yeah.
Festival in St. Croix, Carnival in St. Thomas. Wow.
But let's face it.
No, you're right. And the kind of money we spend to bring them.
I'm about to say, let's face it too. The parade is not the highlight of Carnival anymore or festival. The villages.
Who's gonna be in the village? Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Last thing I've been here. This 340 comics thing, got me. You first of all, they got me wearing a suit. I ain't wearing a suit that long time.
Yeah.
And they got me looking like Doc James and I rock your braids now. You know, the lighting, if I read them, I go understand.
This is how I know it's a St. Thomas guy.
Can you still believe I there in my suit when I talking to you? You said, but they got you smiling here and all that stuff.
They don't have me smiling with the same tie. Could you change my clothes? And could you, like, I have complaints about my comic. I am not fat, and I change my tie.
And then they got me hand them big like Doc James hand them. But I mean, but I just want to give a shout out to 340 Comics, and then called VLA was on a couple of days later. They did the same thing again, and I'm sure they're listening to because when I was driving, I was saying, you don't move the curators whenever you show up to people radio station, but on this particular show, you don't not only move the curators, but the show continues to have its tentacles. We're getting bigger by the week. Yeah. In particular, over there in St. Thomas and St. John, I want to give a shout out to everybody in the Virgin Islands, but for some reason, St. Thomas and St. John, they like to analyze this. NPR, people want more of this type of discussion, Governor. They ain't really into the rah-rah thing no more.
I think so. I think people want to hear, what the real facts are.
Yeah.
And there's so much. It's like I could be on the radio every week, because we're, people don't like it when I say, but we racking up the wins every week. I this week, right? We have 5 stories that I'm holding.
This Calabash Boone thing I had mentioned it on Monday or something.
Yeah.
Right? That's Clifford Graham, a part of that, his development company. Jackson, right?
Jackson Development Group. Clifford is a partner.
That actually started way back in 2006.
Well, he said he started when he was the executive director.
I was the chair of the environmental protection. White and Usidem had do a number on me. They merge economic development and environmental protection, right? I just win the time before. I remember coming towards the last part of that session, White said, Neville, we need a committee meeting because we got to pass this zoning hearing for this Calabash Boone thing in St. John. So that was in 2006. And I believe they did something subsequent to that. Here we are 19 years later. Jesus, the foundation for that, actually, yeah.
But I mean, it's a second to big up my good friend Celestino White, because I mean, I'm realizing when we speak now, we are the new old people, so we have to refresh people's memory because they don't know, and some don't remember. Celestino White is so key because couple of moves. The other piece that we're doing is Love and Land in Megan's Bay.
That's what they call it again? The Peterborough era, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was such a controversial development but Celestino White, when we had,
but that goes back.
Look me
40,
try a little
40 years ago.
Let me try a little shade now. Yeah. When we had bravery and courage in the legislature.
Oh gosh.
To be able to push that through.
I come into that.
It was a lot of pushback, and Celestino said, "No, if it's good enough for everybody else, it's good enough for our people." And look at that development today.
Well,
we bought that too.
I learned on this show. Doc School brought it to me, and then Malik Siku brought it up. Estate Zofriedenhoy is the name. Apparently, they wanted to rezone it. Lloyd Williams wanted to rezone it back when me and you were in school.
Yeah.
And Lorraine Berry had to tell him, I don't know if you know, but the actual area he talking about is Megan's Bay. And so it was a big controversial thing.
Huge.
No, I don't know if Loveland was a part of that. I think that was something separate later on as relates to development and all that stuff. But I think they wanted to do a rezoning over there.
So we bought Loveland too.
Okay. Two. Where's that?
No, the whole thing.
The whole thing, okay.
Yeah, so that's part of this whole development. So it's 300 units. It's 100 and something in St. John and 100 and something in St. Thomas too. So the beautiful thing about that is we're making people instant millionaires. You realize that? Because I don't know if you've ever been up on the hill.
Beachfront property homes is what you're talking about?
In St. John. Yeah. I mean, any home in St. John, right? I mean, the ones that we have, not Calabash Boom Deal. I always forget the name on the hill. The other development that we're selling. Them things are like single family homes overlooking the beautiful Caribbean Sea. Those things that sell for like $1 million and change.
No. Speaking of that, remember you were on last time and we were talking about Trunk Bay, right? The #1 designation.
Number
#1
one.
beach and all that stuff. As long as we, remember I think Jimmy Weber calling and said, don't touch it, just leave it alone, right?
Yeah.
We doing that. We just leave it alone because we doing everything to maintain that #1 designation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we got beautiful beaches all over the place here. No, you threw some shade since we talked this Yankee talk this morning. Let we get that out of the way. You vetoed the legislation to rescind the salary raise. The legislature overrode it. Right? You got to speak in proper tense. Right? And then you countered either last week or week before with proposing to call them into special session and dealing with reform and all that stuff. And you mentioned the double dipping, right? I want to give you some history on that. When Lorraine Berry and Bort were fighting, she mentioned that. And that didn't take any kind of hold at all. That didn't get no traction with the ability to retire from the executive branch and work in a legislative branch. Now, I want to explain how it works because a judge who had explained it to me. Apparently, the GRS has multiple programs within the pension structure, and you pay a different contribution. That's the reason why. That's the explanation for justification for why you can retire out of one branch and still work in a legislature.
No,
branch.
the only reason why is it because the legislature make a law specifically addressing it. Let me show you how ridiculous this is, right? Because the Senate president made an argument that is ludicrous at best. I'm gonna be nice today. Not only are you working for the same government, so he said, "Oh, well, look, people could come back and work in the retirement system, right? From the retirement system and work for the government. Limited, and for jobs that are in demand. But here's the thing, too, he didn't mention. The people who come back don't accrue anything to their pension when they come back. So if you could work another 5 years, if they extend it to 10 years, when you retire at what you retired before. This is...
You mean when you go back into full retirement?
Right. Yeah. You go back at the same rate you were at before. This is, you're not only working for the same place, collecting your retirement, but you accruing another retirement. So when you finish, you get your regular retirement, you get your legislative retirement, right? So that's totally different. And here's the thing. As governor, I'm not going to use me, when Governor Mapp went back to Government House, he couldn't collect his retirement.
And he worked in the executive branch, the legislative branch, prior to being lieutenant governor.
Right. He couldn't collect his lieutenant governor's salary while he was sitting in office.
His lieutenant governor
pension.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he couldn't collect if I gotta use my now. I do 21 years in government. I can't collect my GRS and my government pension and my governor pension, I have to pick one. Like how?
Well, you don't really have to pick one. You got to take the governor's salary.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to be more in every case.
Yeah.
Except unless I did 30 years in government and I served as a lieutenant governor, maybe.
Yeah, stop right there. We'll take a break. We've got the governor on. We're breaking down this issue because I want to talk about the how aspect how this controversy went down with you and the legislature. We got the governor here. We'll take a break. Come back right after this. And we're back here on Anlayze, and we're talking with the governor. Of course, we had a high-profile issue surrounding salaries with the compensation commission and all that stuff. Good morning once again, Governor. Glad to have you here. Now I believe you won the what aspect of that discussion because you brought up a structure that is highly beneficial to those who come out of the executive branch and work in the legislative branch as senators. But I believe the Senate President win the how part of this thing, and I'm going to tell you how. I think you responded too quickly. If I were in government house with you as an advisor, I would have said, "Go, no, we go play poker with this one. We go act like we taking it, and then at some point, drop them out." I think
you think that's the only time I got. I hold it back. I'm waiting.
I think you responded too quickly with that one. You know what I'm saying? And the way the Senate President responded, he tried to make it seem like I'm above and the legislature is above the fray. We're not getting into that with you now and all that stuff.
And then the audacity to say they don't have any study. After they raised the salary, minimum salary to 35,000 and a whim, they said it was going to 32, and they said, no man, let me raise it to 35 without a modicum of data. But two things I hate, Neville, is cowardice and weakness. I beat weakness out of myself. If I feeling tired, if I feeling sick, I force myself to get up. I force myself to do the extra mile when I ride in a bike. I don't like weakness at all. And cowardice is like, it's okay to be afraid. Only a foolish man is not afraid. But you have to do stuff. And weakness and cowardice mixed, I mean, and let me explain that because
But
this,
I just thought from a tactical standpoint.
Oh, yeah,
right?
well.
I if I was you, and next time I say, okay, go. I know you're going back after them, right? But you can't let them know when you're going after them. But you went right after them immediately.
oh, I see what you're saying.
You check what I'm saying? I would have, because let's face it, I'm 100% pro legislature. I'm biased, for obvious reasons and all that stuff, right? But in this case, there's nothing wrong because you need these type of scenarios to find out who you are, right? I want to know, you there when we there in the foxhole. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are real good, when they're going up, against a handgun. You know what I mean? Like, you got an army, check. And I think that allowed for the Senate president, right, to pretty much play the role like, Governor, we really going there with you.
But you realize none of them ain't come out to support him.
Well,
none of them ain't come out to support him. They push him out front.
You know what that is? That's historically the legislature.
That's cowardice.
That's the one thing I have, the one problem I have with the legislature. There is never the unified counter move or support. The president, they like to put president out there.
That's why you don't lose your seat.
That's why you lose your seat. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I wish there was more of, we dealt with the president and that one. You know what I mean? But
I mean,
it was what
I
it
have
was.
to repeat it though. I mean, and it just, how many times I'm in.
But you had a good relationship with him.
With Milton?
Yeah.
I love Milton.
Yeah. He's easy. He's easy to love. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, if they put you out there, they put you out there as a bait. Jazz coming for you. You can hanging over there, looking like meat bloody in the water. It coming for you. Because, what irritated me, two things. And the other thing is the hypocrisy of sitting in the legislature and talking about principle and parity and fairness. And then you going to sit down there and collect $150,000 a year in pay from the government, and then throw shade, and it should really it didn't even really dawn on me. Still, I started to really count. I was like, but wait, 10 of these people are getting 2 checks from the government, from the same government, and while they're collecting the 2 checks, they're accruing a retirement, and then they're going to retire with 2 more checks. I mean, come on, no. And I don't care about the retirement. But this is the fairness part here now. When any commissioner, we should have commissioners moving into legislative position to do policy, because it's a policy job. And you need people who understand projects, budgets, management. So when somebody comes before you, it'll kill me, right? What are we electing? Are we electing a Siskel and Ebert board to be critical of everything that comes before them? The legislature went the other day after they gave Gardner, CKC, $2 million in support, right? They gave him the money. They never saw his books.
You're talking about over the years or?
In the last year and a half. Remember it was
700,000 here, 600,000 there.
Yeah, millions of dollars without ever seeing his book. He just said they just gave him the money, and then he comes back and shuts down in 2 days, and they're raking him over the coals, but none of them really provide a solution to the problem. And time after time again, I watch my cabinet members go up there. They make all kinds of disparaging remarks, but they present no solutions. There is not one legislator in our entire Senate that ran to solve a problem. When Albert Bryan talked, the Brian Roach administration, we solve problems.
But is that a legislature fault, or is it the fact that party politics, where you establish agendas and platforms, is dead?
But if people run independently.
Because
let me tell you how
there is no like when I was a senator. I remember when I got back in as a Senate president 10 years ago, and the very first day I got my laminated document, because remember now it's a ceremonial thing, and I got to recognize the other 14 members and all that stuff. So I said, well, I'm gonna go the Bill Walsh route. Remember, Bill Walsh used to be the coach for the 49ers, highly revered, and he used to have his scripted plays that he gonna call for the first couple of possessions. And so I got that document there, and I doing that. We don't have that. We're not technical and analytical enough. we're a reactionary government, and we got to get away from that.
But if you put yourself on a ballot, you should be able to be putting forth solutions to some of these problems. I ran on fixing the GRS. People told me don't do it. I ran on it. And then, last election, I was like, I'm going to fix WAPA. I'm going to pay back the retro. I'm going to make sure people get, when we give raises, we get it. That's what we ran on. We're going to fix roads. We're going to get these capital projects done. We ran on that. But when you're running on, hey, I'm popular, elect me. I got a nice last name, elect me. And then you go into the legislature, and then you don't really propose any solution. Like,
well, it getting good.
And you know why?
No. It getting good. I just got a text message from my senator, and he said, please tell the governor he will see how much of us will be back here, my president, on session day. So,
yeah.
By the way, you said within 3 weeks. Have you established the special session day yet?
It's right now. It's I think it's the first. It's the 31st. We need to change it because we're messing up with Marvin. Marvin had plans, so we're gonna change it.
Thursday was, so technically, temporarily, it's the 31st of July, but you're looking to modify the date.
But you know how much courage it takes to back your Senate president, to make sure to enrich yourself. At the end of the day, the legislature, all those people, now they're talking about taking $50,000 out of their pocket. All of a sudden, it's a different deal, right? And when you look at how this is presented, this is the part that really irritates me the most.
$50,000 out of their pocket.
That's what you're doing, because all of them are making $50,000 in retirement money that they're going to have to give up.
You're talking about your legislation that is going to, and your legislation calls for they have to choose one.
Yeah,
they can't collect a pension simultaneously while collecting a biweekly for being a senator.
Right.
That's your reform legislation.
Yeah, because when you look at this, it artificially ensures that they have no competition, because
you also have a provision there where folks who working for the government don't have to go on leave to run for. We did that one time in 2002, and then they went back from that.
So there's a lot of things.
I just think it's too long. I just think you're running for Senate, you're working for the government. So the day you file in May, you can't walk no more. Even if you ain't running in a primary and the election till November, there's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Of course,
you know what I'm saying. I think it should be like a 30-day deal before the election. Because we don't want you campaigning on the job, which is the reason for it. But this notion that people got to go on leave, and if you don't have any leave, pay any administrative leave, annual leave, you go 6 months without earning biweekly.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that.
Here's the other thing. I can't run for the legislature and collect my pension.
You can't run for the legislature.
I can't be elected as a legislature and collect my government pension. You know that?
Or like some of the governors who when their governor no longer, they run for U.S. Senate.
Right.
You're saying that they're not allowed to collect their.
No, I'm not allowed to do it.
Our local law don't allow for it.
Yeah, our law doesn't allow.
So you're 80% based on 8 years at 150. You wouldn't be allowed to collect the 120 while you're collecting the 95 as a governor, as a senator.
No, or a delegate. No. So how you go? How? Anyway,
so that's the fairness angle that you're talking about.
There's a lot of fairness angle. The other fairness angle is it should worry the public that 10 people are collecting a GRS pension and in the legislature, because it artificially stops anybody who could give them competition from running unless they're retired. Because now I can't leave commissioners. I didn't talk about the part now there where the whole government. So most of the commissioners earn more than the lieutenant governor now, and the AG, they make almost as much as me.
That's the you know what you're doing. Yeah? You justifying why the compensation commissions was supposed to be in place, and we still ain't take advantage of putting that particular mechanism in place to address the inequities.
It's
the
ridiculous.
disparity.
It's
I want to harp on this topic, and we could take a whole show talking on it. I do want to say.
Let me talk about something positive.
We definitely come into that.
It's only a half an hour.
No, but you're there until 9:20. I got a UVI Alumni Association coming on right after you. But I do want to say, right, that for a small territory with a budget of
1.2 billion.
that's general fund.
General is about 850.
850 and 350
Nine something,
on that, and that's reduced.
But we
right?
sell we spend 1.7 billion a year. You know?
Yeah, because of the indirect costs and all those other things.
No, because we got that doesn't include all of the
capital projects and all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, but indirect costs is something that the public don't know about. They hear about salaries, right? When you talk about a $50,000 salary, you got another 25,000 to 30,000. Well, I say 20 to 30,000 in obligations that you got to factor in there as well. One of the big issues, Governor, we stray away from that. You and Milton Patek, I don't go walking town, and Novell, and that's the a ribbon on this, or a bow tie on this. All I his friend raised up together. All are we the same age, and I know that people like to see controversy and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, the legislature and the governor are expected to provide leadership for the people of the Virgin
But they got
Islands.
bills before me now. I could be salty and veto everything and make them go into recess session. But I don't do that.
You weren't elected to do that.
Country
running good is your priority.
This is the other thing too. I mean, in the letter, the Senate president, they think their job is to counter me. These things don't help Albert Bryan. They help the people of the Virgin Islands.
Well, it should help all of we, to include
It
Albert
does.
Bryan
I
and
mean-
the people of the Virgin Islands and the senators. And Von Hodge told me about this, right? Remember when you were with the young administration and I was on the opposite side with the Diageo deal? And he laid it out to me. He said, Neville, I don't like about this whole thing. It's like the legislature fighting with the executive, and at the end of the day, here's what he said. It's like the executive and Diageo versus the legislature.
Yes.
And it ain't supposed to be like that. It's
Yes.
supposed to be the executive and the legislature working together to make sure that when the deal closes, the people of the Virgin Islands are well taken care of. And I don't like this executive legislative thing all the time and all that, which is the perfect segue to the big beautiful bill that you believe is a good bill.
Which is the exact polar opposite of what we have here. The
Because
Republican Party coming together to whoop the
that's why I come
Democrats.
into. That's why I come into, right? This big beautiful bill, what aspects of it you believe are good? Okay, it can't be all.
No.
They kind of Medicaid cuts. He ain't cutting it.
We like the opportunity. We like the opportunity zones. I really like that. That gives us an opportunity to redraw some line and include the refinery. Those are zones where people could put their capital gains, money that they have that they may profit from another investment in, and not pay any taxes on them. So encourage investment in poverty census districts. I really like the work requirements for Medicaid, and for other social programs. I really like that. I like the rum cover over, of course.
What's the deal? That permanency is at 1350 or 1325?
I think it's 1325.
1325, which is 98% of the 1350.
Yeah,
Retroactive application, or it starts effective when the bill's signed?
it's effective this year. I think I think it's back to the beginning of this year. But that was good part of the bill. Overall, I think is a good bill. I mean,
Do they have a true understanding of the remote areas, the insular possessions, or they just look at us as another budgetary obligation?
Well, you got to think about this, man. The in a time when they're making when they're making cuts on social program, we get more money per capita than most states. We're like and if you add in the recovery, the $23 billion, $25 billion in recovery dollars, we get more money than most states. Sometimes I'm just like, we should be really quiet. I mean, we gained 2 brand new WAPA plants, all our infrastructure redone. Like states would die. Guam is dying to build one hospital. They're trying to figure out how to do it. We building 3. I mean, like, we do really well, and I think people tell me all the time, you make it look
something.
easy.
As a remote area, and we're heading towards a break. As a remote area, we dissolve this because we ain't got no grid like the rest of them other locations, Governor.
Granted,
we're out there. We got self-generate everything.
But
that should require a special level of understanding for the remote areas.
And that's why they did it. So
instead of penalizing us because Puerto Rico can't get it act together.
Whether people like it or not, remember, we got the permanent cover over, and we got the bipartisan budget act will allow us to get a $23 billion, both under Republican presidents, the same Republican president.
I like that to end this segment. When we come up, we'll pick it up there, because the previous administration did a lot of things for the Virgin Islands too.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah.
Back right after this. And we're back here with Governor Albert Bryan, number 9, right?
Number 9,
right? The ninth elected governor.
You need to know 9 and 3/4 now. We almost at 10.
Of the Virgin Islands. Let me talk a little bit about that. 8 furlongs. So we at the 6.5 furlong point.
Yeah.
Literally, we just passed the last. We're heading into the last 3/16 of this race, and Governor, from a naked eye perspective, the recovery. When you were on last time, right? I had a free half hour after you left. I got a call. The boss tell me, Neville, take them call, man. Let me hear what the people got to say about the governor. And a man from St. John named Chin called in and said, I ain't seeing it. I ain't hearing it. He says he can't see. He got vision problem. He said the recovery could be a little faster.
It could,
right? Or see you don't deal with that. Respond to that, Governor.
No, I mean, so it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, it could move faster, but I think once again I gotta remind people about history. One of the great hold-up to the recovery was a bipartisan budget act when we had to go back. It was the only time in the history of the United States that if Congress said, if your building is damaged more than 50%, FEMA have to rebuild for any reason. FEMA have to rebuild it to 100%. So we had to go back and write the rules and regs and everything for that and establish what was the industry standard. And remember this thing where they shut down the world called COVID? That too. So, I mean, between those two things, we lost about 3 years. But even with that, right, the recovery is moving too fast. And you're going to feel it as I leave office.
Explain when you said too fast.
The inflation. I mean, we have never in the history of the Virgin Islands had which is going to get me on the legislature again too, but, we have never had a period with this low unemployment, which, speaking back to the big, beautiful bill.
Where we at now?
We're at 4. St. Thomas at 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It is a great thing.
It's a great thing. Yeah,
and so it puts pressure on wages. Like, people pay more and more for workers because there are no workers.
That's a cause and effect thing that the people don't really understand in that makes their business.
Right. And when you look at, we did a kickoff for Central in the last 2 weeks, the construction kickoff. Yesterday at the PFA meeting, we we signed the contract for, I think that was St. Thomas Schools. No, that was for Nude Hansen Memorial.
Mm-hmm. Because I had the Suffolk CBNA people here about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That bundle in St. Thomas, them 5 schools.
They got a bundle for. They got Nude Hansen too. They got
Suffolk CBNA.
Yeah, they got a bundle for schools. Mm-hmm. James Benton won, St. John bundle, Castro, Myra Keaton, and the new school.
Are we using the established businesses here in the Virgin Islands who have the wherewithal, who have the infrastructure, moving them around the territory so that we can get these projects going, man? I think that might be an issue.
There's nobody left to work. I mean, right now, one of the big things with this 300 homes is home ownership for us. You can imagine this. Charles Harwood awarded. I think Benton won Charles Harwood.
One thing I want to say about Lickett, Charles Howard, right? I got beautiful vista. That's what I don't know. But it gonna build back though. Don't get me wrong. We need it to build back, but they look lovely.
A Crystal Palace. Myra Keaton, almost done. It's gonna be not Myra Keaton. Kimmerman.
Kimmerman, yeah, whatever.
Almost done. Yeah.
But Governor, let me ask this futuristic question. You're not going to be governor come January 2007. You ready? 27. You ready to deliver, to hand over to your successor these projects so they could finish and the people of the Virgin Islands, so that at the end of the day, even if you don't finish under your watch, you could say, I played my part in getting it to where they need to be for the end result?
90% of what I'm doing now is for the next governor. This is the stuff we try and finish out, right? Polly Joseph, the new school, we're going to start high school, start the hospitals, start 11 schools we're going to start. We already got a rum cover over. Permanent now. We got back, we fixed the retirement system. We paid the retro. We almost caught up in taxes. We just releasing another 15 million again next week. So the next governor now.
So we don't have a cash flow problem right now, is what you're saying.
We never had a cash flow problem, man.
Per se. Per se. We had some issues one time. I think in your first year, you had to call in the legislature to pay Vital when they were threatening in December the first year.
But we had the money. We just needed the authorization to pay. I mean, for the entire stay of my. Can you think about this? There has never been a governor of the Virgin Islands that had 130 million cash sitting in the bank waiting, and another 400 million on the other side.
Well, they had one who had
cash.
They had one who had 300 million cash. John DeYoung inherited that from Bonnie Stonewall and
we ain't gonna go there today.
And Lolo in 2006
and didn't pay.
2007.
And yet he inherited a $20 million light bill from WAPA. I mean, it's like
in 2007.
Yeah,
in January 2007.
More than $20 million in WAPA. I mean, we're not gonna go there, but.
No, but back in history. So
never have we had that much money. I mean, yesterday I was sitting down with First Bank. We have a CD with 60 million in it sitting in the bank. Like, I listen to, this is why we need, people who understand finance, economics.
We need more civics being taught in it.
We need civics as well, too.
So the public will have a real understanding. You just mentioned something. I hope the public understand the importance of what you just mentioned. You said it wasn't a cash problem. it's an authorization problem, which means that is the law.
You know, the legislature just increased. Remember, I was begging them for the line of credit. You know, they just increased it to $250 million. They increased it by $100 million.
Did you thank them, man?
And the bank say,
Did you thank them?
we don't need it.
No, thank them now, man. Show the legislature love. I might show this
Like,
man.
it's just-
Thank the legislature this
Thank
man.
you,
I might show.
legislature.
That's all I got to
Thank
do. I mean,
you.
you're a pilgrim. You know what I mean?
They increased
You know
they
what I'm
increased the CCM limit to $1 million too. They did some good stuff. They increased the fines. That was a good thing too.
So the legislature, I see the governor thanking you and giving her some props. So I go figure this out. Have a good lunch or something, man. I mean, just sit down and talk because the governor only got 3/16 of a mile to go left.
But the only thing that wrong with the legislature is the court come back. So that's why we have the war. You know that's true.
Nothing around.
If we didn't have, he's a good person. I mean, but
you and court got history.
He just
long before people know that. I don't know. Tell the real story. You and court got history long before I run against each other.
the disruption in the legislature.
You know, the two of my boys
because
from back in the day continue to. I mean, you need the race done. 2022 done, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Done, man. We need Ayo got the two Ayo got a real understanding of government. Yes, things were said and all that stuff, and it's easy for me on the outside to say let bygones be bygones. I'm not saying that because I myself to hold on to some things. I'm human, right? But
I don't have any bygones. I win.
Ayo in a leadership situation at a time when the Virgin Islands needs leadership. We're supposed to be a regional leader in the Caribbean.
We are.
You know what I'm saying?
Like we have the highest standard of living in the Caribbean, except for Bermuda. Bermuda is just like
Bermuda in the Caribbean.
Huh?
I talking about the real Caribbean. Bermuda there in the Atlantic, but I mean in the Caribbean Sea.
Even Puerto Rico. I mean, our salaries.
That's a joke, man.
You know,
governor making $70,000 to take care of 3.5 million people and 4,000 square miles. No wonder Puerto Rico has problems. They can't have that. But let me ask this question quick. The dredging up here in Christiansted, because I got a project I've been working on. I've been telling Marvin Pickering and Willa John them about my project I want to deal with. When we gonna get this dredging in Gallows Bay, man?
That's not gonna happen. I mean, we had an Army Corps in here.
What happened to St. Croix? Why we can't get dredging done in St. Croix, man?
Well,
we ain't got right to feel like it's a conspiracy against us, man. Oh God, that Gallows Bay dock was ideal for small cruise ship with people who just spend money. That's what we want.
The Army Corps did the study, and for them to get it done, it's like $200 million. They gone back again to do another study.
What you meant to do? What, the dredge up there?
Yeah. I had to make a decision.
Oh, because we take so long and they ain't been maintaining dredging it all along.
Well, they got to do some busting of the reef and all kind of stuff too, in order to get it in. Because they can't do it like it was before. They wanted a new route in. So they're going back again. They like 3 weeks ago, they came back and they said, you know what, we're going to give it another crack. But what they presented wasn't feasible. It didn't make economic sense in order to do that. But Christiansted, we got some other things planned for Christiansted, and I got some other rabbits I'm going to be pulling out.
You and I are able to talk off the record. I ain't going to let this one go. I did my research. I got a small cruise line named Seabourn Cruises. They got a 21-day itinerary starting in San Juan, ending in Bridgetown. And they'll go twice around the area, and they'll make stops in the British Virgin Islands. And they'll got 3, out of that 21 days, they got 3 or 4 days at sea, which means that we could squeeze in into some kind of home. You mean to tell me that they can't come to St. Croix, man? Oh, gosh, man.
They can, but I think what happened is whoever did the original perspective for that dredging, like they overdid the design. So they can't come in on the eastern side of Protestant Key, better known as Hotel and the Key. They want to come in and they got bust the reef. They got bust the reef over there. Yeah.
So
because they got some
and they can't come in on the western side there by King Christian. It ain't big enough.
No, because we even tried to, because there was some money there, and we tried to alter it so we could dredge the Wapa Channel, because the Wapa Channel is
correct.
shallow
I know about that part.
too.
Yeah.
And then we have Gold Coast Yacht right down there. We thought it would be a good idea. We could get a nice channel that go all the way down, but that wasn't it for the money, because it's the feds paying for it. It's not us paying for it. They wouldn't be able to justify this Army Corps.
So we can't get the Seabourn Cruises with them small cruise ship with them
I
LL
think
people
we could get them
come to
in,
Frederickson?
Yeah, we could get them.
Or we can do some walk down there at we name Cruise Lagoon. That's a lovely port down there too by Vialco. We can't transition that.
We got some industrial plans for there. We got a lot of stuff planned for there. But we right now,
Because we need them kind of people. When the sea goddess used to come here, that's one thing we're good in St. Croix. But you know about that. When you graduate from college, let me say you graduated in 85, you got 89, you graduated from Wittenberg, you went to Wittenberg, right? Wittenberg, right? Wrong then. 80s, 90s, that sea goddess used to come here and we used to do good with them small cruise ships, huh?
Right.
Because we don't want to compete with St. Thomas.
Right now, my worry is how we keep Royal Caribbean coming because we don't have enough to do in Frederickstead. We need some more transportation. Our taxi drivers getting older. We need capacity. I'm working on a hotel deal right now, and if that go through, we gonna need some serious capacity.
Need education, Governor, so that when we hook up these younger taxi drivers and tour operators, they know what we're going on here in the 50s and the 40s and the 30s and all that good stuff. You know what I mean?
But during the Brian Roach administration, I mean, we have essentially increased tourism in St. Croix over 400-500% between airlift and cruise ship.
Can't deny that. Every time I come down on the plane, that plane packed me.
Yeah.
And like,
are we getting more flights? We got Chicago flight coming in this season.
To where?
To St. Croix.
When?
I think that starts in December. And we're working on some other stuff,
But I mean, what's not to like? Look outside, Governor. Look at it. This is paradise. They should like this. Now let's ask the one question that people want to know about this big, beautiful bill, the Medicaid deal. And then the smart man move with them where it ain't kicking in until after the midterms. It's like they're admitting they know it's going to have a negative effect.
Well,
finesse that as a governor. In other words, you don't want to offend those who are in power right now because they have the ability to impact us. But we got to talk realistically to your constituents.
You know what I tell people in the States when they complain about that? I say, the Virgin Islands has a Medicaid cap. And they go, what? I say, yeah, the Virgin Islands and Guam are the two smallest places in America. And the only places in America that have a Medicaid cap. Well, why does the rest of the nation not have a Medicaid cap?
But that's a dollar thing, Governor.
It is a dollar thing.
No, that's just bad governance.
Oh, you mean the policy is just bad governance?
Bad governance.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
but my point being is, when we look...
You're making me sound good at this morning.
My point is...
Everything ain't about dollars. Seriously, that's just bad policy. And I don't want to use the R word, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes you got to ask that question.
I'm a very blue dog Democrat. You know that, right? I'm a very conservative Democrat.
Yeah, you're from Carolina.
So how can you have... I could tell you, our Medicaid program, when it was 100%, everybody had Medicaid. We had Medicaid. When we had that cap in and we had to start to cut back and look at what... Because last year, we ran out of match, All these little things that happened, and I had to go back and get $3 more million in order to get the Medicaid match, to get vendors paid again. There were so many people on Medicaid in the Virgin, which is a good thing. But you know what was the number in the top 5? You know what the top 2 of those things were? Dentists.
Mm-hmm.
Dentists. And people need healthcare without a doubt.
Yeah, man.
But it needs to be managed because it increases. It's always been a theory to me, right?
Why would you cap the smallest jurisdictions? It makes no sense.
None whatsoever. But we were glad because now we got fixed Medicaid. We got an 83% match, right? We did that during this administration too. Permanently. Never before in the history of the Virgin Islands. These are the little things that people don't appreciate. So I think we need to manage Medicaid better because if we didn't have food stamps, food wouldn't be so expensive. And if we didn't have Medicaid, healthcare wouldn't be so expensive. Because hold
on a second. Explain that or break that down. If we didn't have food stamps, I want to make sure I process this. Food wouldn't be so expensive.
It wouldn't be. They would have to lower the price of food.
Oh, you're talking about that.
Yeah, there's 55 million. There's $55 million in food stamp in the Virgin Islands every year, for 30,000 people.
We're going to take a break, come back, we're going to talk about the clean energy issue with this big, beautiful bill you're talking about as well. Okay? Governor in the House, great conversation so far. We got one more segment. Be back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed on Anlayze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters. The views and opinions expressed on Anlayze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And we're back here on Anlayze This. We got the governor's in the house, number 9, Albert Bryan Jr. His last name is Bryan, but he's a pilgrim. Good morning, Governor. Glad to have you on.
Good morning.
You hear Pilgrim Terrace, that's his family, man, all kind of stuff. Good. So you say you want to be part of the round table one day, right? With the voice. So here's what I'm going to do, right? Boss, if you're listening, I'm willing to do an hour for free on behalf of the station. We could do a 3-hour round table if you want, from 8 to 11 to speak. We don't think the 2 hours would be enough with 4 or 5 people talking, and it don't be enough. So, boss, if you're listening, I'm willing to go till 11, right? 10 to 11 will be gratis, and Neville James as a contribution to the station because of the quality of the discussion. If we could get the governor on a round table, maybe sometime in August, with me, Dux, Dwayne, Rocky, the governor, and maybe one more.
You
good for that?
I good for that.
If I 8 to 11?
You know what we should do,
so
too?
I actually the boss publicly, and I'll do the 10 for 11 gratis if you want.
We should discuss some real policy measures because, one of the things that I've been what was that?
Well, you talk about, you brought up something here with respect to WAPA that I want to quote you on. Our vision is to build a stronger, more resilient economy by supporting job creation and long-term private investment. If we can reach a 12-cent industrial power rate, we can unlock a new era of growth on St. Croix, one that lifts working families and expands our middle class. Break that down in lay people language for the public.
So what I'm saying is, one of the this, brace yourself now, you're not gonna like this. Commercial power in the Virgin Islands costs more than residential power, and it should be the opposite. Because and the reason why I'm saying that is because there's more residential power to spread the bill out upon than commercial power. So our main stuff is restaurants and eateries, the grocery stores. They spend a lot of money on power, and they can't stay in business because power is so high. We've lost manufacturing. We've even lost Hess because of the price of energy in the Virgin Islands. So when we were creating Senator Novell Francis, the EDA, me, everybody was creating the free trade zone. The one thing that I mentioned is, hey, we should have unregulated power in a free trade zone. So you could sell power at any price. Hess could sell power, Martin Marietta could sell power, the airport could sell power, and we got it done. And then it came to me and said, wait a minute, we have overcapacity with WAPA because we're building these solar farms everywhere. And Carl is telling VI Electron now, don't build the one in West because I don't have anywhere to put that power because you're going to destabilize the grid. So I said, Carl, what if we allowed WAPA to sell Diageo power in the zone for a different rate? Because they're trying to go green. And what if we were able to sell any WAPA power in the zone at an unregulated rate? And he said, that could work. So we could buy power at 8 cents, sell it at 12. If we get 12 cents power in our industry, in our free trade zone, data centers open up, light manufacturing open up, robotics open up. And now, because we have all of these tariffs, I'm speaking to people all over the world right now. Yesterday, I was on the phone with a guy from India trying to get him to come to the Virgin Islands and invest because they have to pay 26% tariff for a U.S. good. If you bring it to St. Croix, right, you grow lemons, just as an example. Lemons has a 300% tariff, 300%. So if we bring lemons from India, bring them to St. Croix, squeeze them, bottle them in lemon juice, right? Those lemons go to the United States tariff-free, and they can compete as a U.S.-made good. So I'm going all over the place telling people about this. And guess what, people? If you do it in the Virgin Islands, you get a 90% break on your income taxes.
So you're selling the Virgin Islands as a business conduit?
St. Croix, but not St. Thomas and St. John. St. Croix.
St. Croix as a business conduit to getting manufactured goods into the mainland?
Absolutely. And, it is a huge opportunity for us.
These are things that you're supposed to be having lunch with the legislature about so that they could facilitate and fast track this type of thing, man.
They want to talk about foolishness.
I ain't getting into that. I just want IO to live together and be in harmony, you know what I'm saying?
But yes, I think these are the conversations. When I have these conversations, my vision for the Virgin Islands is coming true.
Make sure when you tell people from now, they don't know that I've been on Anlayze this, and technically I'm in my last 3/16 of the gig. Make sure you say that.
Right.
And then when January come, and then in my last 8, right? Because time running out, Governor. And the politicking don't start already. I hear people there on boat 20 strong going St. John and all kind of thing, wearing T-shirt and all that kind of thing.
I didn't see any T-shirts. I think I saw one.
You check? So, it is what it is. Let's talk healthcare, Governor. Governor. You were championing as far back as, I believe, 2021, somewhere around there, this telemedicine and all that good stuff. And I'm hearing a lot about that in the PPP because people concerned about the healthcare with the Medicaid cuts and all that. Again, are there avenues for the Virgin Islands to be leaders with telemedicine?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. And the thing is, I was just in New York taking care of some medical issues. And the anesthesiologist there, he's like, wow, I would love to come to the Virgin Islands and work. I was like, you serious? He's like, sure, I come a week every month. And I share that information. Enough people don't know that we have those opportunities here. But the data warehouse that we're building for medical information, the electronic medical file system that is now in place. Our MCH clinics, maternal child health clinics, they now have telemedicine capability. The hospital, people use telemedicine in different ways. They read x-rays remotely. But we want to expand upon that because mostly in terms of the specialists, because the more access we have to healthcare, the more expensive it's going to become because you don't have the doctors.
The associate dean at NYU told me in 2006, where you guys are at, you should be looking at retirement, the retirement population, right, geriatrics and all that stuff. I forget what his name was, Bronstein or Rothstein or something. Why don't we focus on specialization and looking at a particular age group? I mean, I know we want to take care of everybody, but in real business, you got to be dominant in one demographic or one area, and that will take care of the others.
But remember, the cardiac center is still there, and the The cancer center in St. Thomas is still there. It's going to be open by, I think, December this year. It's going to come back online. You know, I always caution everybody. So healthcare has been an issue for a long time in the Virgin Islands,
In
right?
particular, uncompensated healthcare.
Right. And that's a pet peeve of mine, which I get really irritated with the hospital.
Don't get irritated.
leadership.
We're having a good conversation.
Because the uncompensated care thing is total BS. It's total BS. Because it's a government hospital, right? No matter what,
the term is actually a community hospital. Yeah.
we cover the bill.
Yeah.
If the hospital runs out of money, the government pays the bill. So if the hospital is really losing $30 million a year, why they close? What they're telling you is they're billing this and they're not getting this money back. So we need to move mentally away from the concept of billing and receiving. We need to move, and we're going to create a hospital that has all the services that we need to survive as a community and provide care to the community. What does that cost? Right? And then we pay it. How do we pay it? Self-funded insurance. We would have saved $25 million on our insurance this year, plus the $30 million is supposed to go up. So that's $55 million the legislature lock us out of.
That's another discussion you're going to have, or you want to have, or you need to have with legislature.
I sent it down to them for them to mandate that we go to self-funded insurance.
But at this point, should it be a mandate or should it be a discussion?
It should be a mandate.
So folks could really understand what you're talking about, because that's going out on a limb. That's risk. And I understand you measure risk by the size of the reward, but people need to be more educated and knowledgeable about that self-insurance.
Think about this.
Commitment.
The total
self-funded insurance.
Self-funded insurance, just to let everybody know, is still Cigna. We just pay the bill. We provide the money. So think about this. Our line of credit, right, is $250 million.
Thank you, legislature.
Our insurance only costs $180. So when people tell you like that was another idiotic thing that the legislature sent to me, saying in their press release, saying we don't know in these financial times if we can afford it. And out of the $180 million, the people pay $60 million. Those are the premiums they pay every week. So worst case scenario, you got to come up with $120 million. Guess what? We do it all the time anyway.
Less than 50% of the line of credit.
Yes.
At $250.
So
that's just the math thing.
So So when you start, the bills don't come for 30 days, and then they'll take 30 days to be paid. If we have 180 million, you to do math fast, right? Mm-hmm. That means that we're spending $5 million a month.
A month? No. 15.
15.
Yeah.
So we already spend. By the time the first bill has to be paid, we'd have already saved $30 million. The payroll is only $15 million. Even if we go out and borrow $30 million today, right?
But Governor, you're making an argument for what I'm asking for, what I'm clamoring for. All of your discussions with the legislature don't have to be on the record. These sounds like discussions that I need. I'll come up.
Hello.
Let me talk.
This is why
I'm going to be in Iraq. I'm going to be in St. Croix. I'll come. Let me talk.
This is why I'm even more irritated.
Maybe I'm looking at it now because I'm up there. Because when I was in my 40s and 50s, I wasn't thinking like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you. Discussions are necessary.
We did this.
All are we going into our retirement age? I was just thinking while you were talking, right? You're going to be 60 when this thing done.
No, 58. Don't push it.
58.
58. But wait, I don't want you to move up.
No. You're making whatever you're making in 2027. You're making 29. You're making 59 or 60.
59 in February. I leave in January.
Okay, good. Right.
We call the legislature.
You have to be looking. You have to be looking beyond your window.
We call
as a good governor. You can't really worry about you can't worry about now until it's done. And then when it's done, you walking away. You should want for the Virgin Islands to be okay January 2027 and beyond.
Clearly, otherwise I would have just approved the $35,000 minimum wage. I mean, why? I had to ask myself that in the night to know, why are you pushing back against these things? You're going to be gone. But clearly, I care about what's going to happen because I'm pushing back against that because we can't afford it. And clearly, I am, because the first instance of
They got 58 in retirement, and you still got more to contribute to this Virgin Islands. So I know you believe, you was a governor and all, I rub shoulder and you know what I mean, got your fraternity. But we still looking for you to care and make contributions to the Virgin Islands post Brian Roach.
We spoke to, absolutely. We spoke to the legislature in April. And I didn't, the Senate president himself, I said, get a group of you guys together. I want to show you something. Gave them a presentation on this. They said, good, we're going to have it. We're going to have the legislature meet and we're going to do something. May 16th, May, what we in now, July. Milton Pat, I got an email I could show you. Oh, we ain't going to have time to do that. It's too complicated. That's what he's saying in the email. Too many moving parts.
Mr. President, you're my guy. I've been promoting you, telling you that you got to win over the governor. But that kind of thing there, legal counsel supposed to be, you need legal counsel to speak with the governor, legal counsel and all that stuff. That's the type of thing you need. You can't just 1 month later say, too complicated.
Too much moving
That's what
parts.
the governor said.
That's what he said.
You send it down in April and then by May, you're saying blah, blah, blah.
Right?
No, don't get me wrong. No. One thing about the senator, you got to remember, you yourself say you're a lame duck. They got contract call coming up in another 15 months or thereabouts.
This would have been a win for them.
Well,
So I want to finish though, because it's important, right? It was too many moving parts for them to send out the RFP to demand that we have this, right? Now, that $25 million, two things I want to say about a hospital I think we need to do. That $25 million, we wouldn't have given it back in savings to individuals because it would have been negligible per person. But that was $10 million for each hospital and $5 million for the community health centers, right? $25 million. That $10 million coming annually would have helped brace our hospital up against the challenges that they have to face. And we would have been able to engineer a prescription program using this management period to lower the cost of prescriptions for people who don't have in-health insurance, and the hospital would have been benefiting from it again. So this was a win.
You painting this as a win-win, Governor?
Win.
As a triple, quadruple win you're talking about?
All I asked him to do in his letter, he never sent legislation on it. It's not my job to write legislation. When I write legislation and call them into session,
so often.
They get irritated.
Ever so often.
But you know what?
But you are right. It's not your job per se, but legislation can come from up the way.
I'm going to write legislation. I write 3 yesterday. They want me to be a senator?
Draft.
They're going to send them down for them. I'm going to send them. Every week I send in one down. Because they're important matters. I've been asking for them for a while, and I'm not seeing them.
We got a couple of minutes left. First of all, I want to thank you for the short notice and coming in, and we had to do some shuffling, and I appreciate that. So you feel like we're on a good path.
The Virgin
The
Islands?
Virgin Islands.
Oh yeah, we're on a bright path. You know what I'm worried about?
Okay. What?
I'm worried is that it's just like the big beautiful bill.
These sewer systems for the Virgin Islands. Them things you keep hearing about design. The timeline for them thing because we keep pushing things off. Them things gonna be all right, man.
They're gonna be all right. Yeah, shit's gonna get fixed. How can I say that?
It's an NPR station. It's an NPR station, but
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. But St. Thomas stuff we're dealing with. St. Croix, horizontal. That's where you have power, sewer, water, fiber.
You mentioned the bundles. You mentioned bundles. Bundles are being signed
There's
off.
$4 billion in bundles.
$4 billion bundles right now. Okay,
yeah,
good.
Adrian is kicking butt. Miss Williams Octolan.
Good morning, Madam ODR.
That's gonna be done. It just St. Thomas took a little longer because they got obligated later. And we got some real problems. Yeah. But that's going to be done. I'm worried about, in the big, beautiful bill, is just like after the last storm, I was working volunteer.
We didn't get into that because I ain't really looking to go after the administration because they got issues and all that stuff. But here is a general observation. They don't believe in incremental application. They want complete movement, extremism, and that don't work. The American people ain't with that no more.
How you know what? Let me make trouble now. How come you ain't say, you could sit down 4 years and come back and run for governor again?
We gonna get into that, but that's why I set up this thing and I asked the boss over the air. Let me do the chair one thing. Because
I'm not coming back.
And I gonna do 10 to 11 gratis for that round table, so we could break that down. Cause we don't refer to ourselves as Generation Done. Me, Docs, and Rocky and Rani and all that stuff. Governor, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it. You got parents to make today? You're sharp.
We got cabinet meeting today. Thank you.
Okay.
But I really, every time I want to say, I said the people, the poor people, the people who just getting by, that's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
If you're in the middle class already, you're gonna be a little irritated, but you're gonna go far because there's a lot of opportunity. But if you're in the poverty class, like take advantage of free education. Try to get a house, buy some land.
Clean energy. That's an issue with the administration that they have a problem with, and we need it here in these remote areas. Thank you very much, Governor. Glad to have you here. And don't forget, we come back in August. We're going to do that thing in August with the boys with the round table.
Absolutely.
So that we could, exchange and all that stuff. And the public will find out about your real political relationship with Armando Rocky Labor out of St. John. Governor Albert Bryan, number 9. Appreciate you being here this morning. Looking forward to talking with you next month on the round table. Be back right after this.